AI is merely a tool. If I give somebody a golf club and say, see what you can do out there, it's going to be a different result from everybody who picks it up. So, merely using a golf club doesn't tell me anything. It's not any type of badge of honor by showing it was built by AI, which I've actually heard in the space. Hello, welcome to today's DNA webinar, June 2023. And is there a more appropriate topic than AI? We get asked about it every day. We utilize it to an extent. Going to talk to you about all the options out there, all the approaches for correct usage, utilization towards quality AI marketing. The title of the webinar is, of course, Unlocking the Future of Investor Marketing with AI. And joined here from members of our creative studio. Have TJ on the writing side, Jacob in terms of creative and graphic design. TJ, do you want to kick things off and tell a bit about your background and what you do here at DNA before we jump into it?
Sure. My name's TJ Sumaia. I'm the copywriter here at AI at DNA, and we're going to be covering all the topics of AI. AI is a really new thing. I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I love being here at DNA, working with all these amazing startup companies. And we're just now really delving into this topic of understanding this new technology that's really taking over by a landslide.
Awesome. Looking forward to that writing analysis. TJ is beyond talented, and if you reach out to her after the webinar, she'll tell you about some of her personal writing projects. I've seen performances firsthand. Pure skill that TJ brings to the table here, beyond any AI I'm aware of, by the way.
Thank you.
Then jump into your history and everything you bring to the table here on DNA campaigns.
My name is Jacob. I'm one of the graphic designers here at DNA on our creative team. I've been working as a graphic designer since 2009 when I graduated, through a lot of different industries, through jewelry, film and TV, and many others. And here I mainly construct motion graphics campaigns to aim towards investment, usually in the crowd equity space. And it's been a great position because I get to handle a lot of different clients, and I get to understand a lot of different clients. Definitely, I think one of the reasons that TJ and I specifically are definitely being featured on this subject is because I think there's been a lot of controversy, a lot of discussion about, well, is AI going to take our jobs? And we both have jobs that are perceptively at threat by AI. I would counteract that perspective probably later in this discussion, but it's exciting technology, and it'll be really exciting to talk more about how to utilize it to our benefit.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, 2023, we hear about AI everywhere and entering every industry. My wife's a lawyer. There's legal AI. I can tell you about the holes and the cases and what some firms are dealing with in terms of consequences right now. The writer strike that's occurring. Hey, AI is a big part of that discussion. And future rights, ongoing usage guarantees for talent and how they'll be utilized. Our discussion today is, of course, around investor marketing and how AI can be applied here. Rather than spending a few minutes on my personal perspective towards artificial intelligence here, or team members, we're going to do it throughout the next sets of pages. We'll start with some examples of different tools that can be used and that we find much value in. We've personally vetted. We're going to talk about different processes, and that's where I really want the focus to be today, is standard operating procedures for a good outcome. AI is merely a tool. If I give somebody a golf club and say, see what you can do out there, it's going to be a different result from everybody who picks it up. So, merely using a golf club doesn't tell me anything. It's not any type of badge of honor by showing it was built by AI, which I've actually heard in the space. But it's playing a crucial role by providing advanced tools and techniques for, and we're going to have analysis on each of these, Data analysis and insights, personalized communication. You could do this across mass sets of target audience segments, which as a marketer, I'm a big fan of. I could talk about how I first used AI 10 years ago with programmatic advertising, automation, predictive analytics, content generation, optimization. It is hot right now. Looking at the tools for investor marketing to inspire your investors. Actually, TJ, could you kick things off and share a bit about the big one that we all talk about? Many people use free or paid subscriptions of ChatGPT.
Sure. Number one on my list, and I'm sure it's an everyday topic, it's ChatGPT. It could be good or bad. It really depends on how you utilize it. Along with many others, ChatGPT is just top rating right now. They're really the ones taking over the AI market per se. But at the end of the day, it really is the importance of optimizing AI for the better results, like any other of the ones that we've used, like ChatGPT, Sonic, Scribe, ChatGPT, like all the other ones. It really depends on how you're optimizing it. It's really essentially, if AI is learned and it's based on human input. The importance of providing the best prompts is optimal for the output. So it's all really inverse input versus output. Essentially, AI is only as old as we're giving the information. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's only a year old. So if we're funneling information that's just broad all over the place, it's going to give us a very broad answer. And so strengthening it using ChatGPT and all these other platforms that we've been using, it all comes down to how much you're funneling. Essentially, with the complications of how technical, technology can be and all these new programs, ChatGPT for me personally has been the one that's just the most cleanest, easy interface platform. So that's really why I go to ChatGPT first. A lot of times it'll be down or just overwhelmed, and then there's other backup platforms, but ChatGPT for sure is the one that's just the cleanest interface. For me personally, there's just so many changes in the AI world, and this one is really the one that's giving the best input right now.
And remember, merely using ChatGPT does not mean there's a quality outcome. Our lead editor, Mark, who you may recognize from other pieces of content here at DNA, has said ChatGPT often puts out content that feels like a non-marketer's perspective on marketing copy, advertising messaging. It can feel very generic. It could feel very polished, to the point of lacking any type of substance. It is all about the prompts, which we're going to get into. It's all about the processes, the formats, the audience, the competitors that you're telling it to model off of. When you hear about ChatGPT passing the bar exam or any of these massive tests or achievements, it's with extensive training beforehand. So simply using this does not put out a good outcome as a generalization, as much as how you use it and what is possible from there. I've heard marketing directors, CMOs of small businesses say, hey, we don't have a need for a writer or a content marketer, all these different positions now because of ChatGPT. And I can tell you how much it stands out if I could point at a piece of content and tell it was written by ChatGPT. Good AI usage, you should not be able to tell that AI was involved or wrote it. So we're going to get more into best practices and how to utilize these technologies. Scribe's another one, watching your workflow process, and then using the power of AI to create your guide on autopilot. So being able to really build SOPs, standard operating procedures, have consistency in terms of your service offerings because of what's being put into place with Scribe, being able to look at anything on the development side, let's say your B2C business, and it's more about having a replicatable process. That way you could hire more team members and operate at scale, working on the business, not in the business, by putting systems together. That is what we see with Scribe. Jacob, what do we talk about when we see Compose AI?
Well, you can cut your writing by 40% with the brilliant power of AI auto completion and text generation. This extension will save you countless hours with emails and writing tasks. So I'm not as adept on the textual AI platforms, but it sort of seems like it has a predictive element, that it specializes in what's most likely going to come next and what you're writing. So you kind of save all the time of what you already know you're going to type.
I know there's a few of those. What about on the GLASP side? YouTube, I know there's a lot of tools that become available. What are we seeing here with GLASP?
It generates a summary, a textual summary of what video you're watching, which is pretty innovative. I think that's kind of like a bridging point between the methodologies being used by Midjourney and some of these AI art platforms and the textual AI platforms.
Yeah, and here's a good example of where machine could do more, especially in terms of busy work, than an individual. Allows you to really preserve mid-high level team member time, and you can set this up across high volumes of videos and have summaries created. If you're doing it on just a few videos, a single video, you're going to want to put your own take on it, go through multiple revisions by putting it through a platform, and have processes around that later in this presentation. But being able to do higher volumes, okay, this is something where, hey, there could be benefits. We could save time and do a lot more using these tools. SEO, search engine optimization experts, are finding all different types of AI usages that allow for this as well. They'll create 100 articles in a day and be looking to earn authoritativeness, going towards distribution and getting real benefits from that. So wanted to point out what's possible there. TJ, what's your experience with WordTune?
I personally loved WordTune. Now, don't get me wrong, ChatGPT is taking over WordTune for me now. It's kind of like a combo 2-in-1, but WordTune's really great. When you have those just hiccups, you can't get your word across, or you're just like, there has to be another way to rephrase this. WordTune really comes into play. Let's say, you have a very technical piece for, let's say, I have a lot of technical startup companies, a lot of Bitcoin companies that I'm working on right now. And there's just a lot of that jargon that maybe not your everyday people, everyday audience understands. So WordTune, there's like ways to be like, okay, let's make this sound a little more casual, or let's rewrite this. And it'll give you like 5-6 different ways. Like, how can we rewrite this and still get the message across? A lot of times, if we're writing a description on an ad and we're limited to certain characters, you can even say like, hey, shorten this for me. It'll shorten that into just enough, and use the right synonyms, and you skip that trip to the thesaurus and it's right there for you. So I really like WordTune. I'm not using it as much as I used to before AI took over, but it's definitely still on my books.
Mm-hmm. And as you can see here, change your writing tone, expand on paragraphs, more concise. We're not talking about, hey, let WordTune write for you, as much as use AI as a team to an extent to bounce ideas, get inspiration, and put out the best quality writing possible. Jacob, you brought up Midjourney. Here are some of the images put together. For any audience members that are not familiar, what is Midjourney?
Midjourney it's beautiful. So around about last year, around this time, Midjourney kind of surfaced into its beta testing, as well as 2 other platforms, DALL-E and Stable Diffusion. Midjourney, I think, originally sought out to be primarily more painterly. I first noticed it when I was actually looking on LinkedIn, and I saw a colleague post, here's a picture of Van Gogh, and here's another picture, looked like another Van Gogh. but it was made by a computer. And I was like, what? Wow, what is this? So I immediately downloaded it. And essentially you prompt, you go into Discord and you prompt the kind of image you want through the Discord app and to the Midjourney bot. And kind of like ChatGPT, I think it has versions that are released within sort of milestones. And that for each version has basically taken all the collective prompts to train itself to become a much more expanded tool. So this tool, I've watched it grow into something just brilliant. Primarily, people are using it for sort of concept art like stuff. People aren't really using it to make banner ads. People aren't really necessarily using it to make marketing tools. Maybe they might generate an alternative photo or an alternative background to like a flyer, or there is something maybe they can use in the banner ad, but they're not using this tool to create the marketing collateral in its entirety. So it'll be interesting to see if people do that, how they go about it. But we're not quite seeing that right now.
And when we say that, what I'd like to point out to the audience is that there is an opportunity here. So when we're talking about investor marketing, the primary campaign we work on is RegCF, regulation crowdfunding, which can target retail and accredited investors and allow for up to 5 million to be raised in a calendar year, campaign year from when the paperwork is filed with the SEC, Form C. Different rules for different FINRA regulated portals that you're on, but that is the basis of it. So when we work with companies that are running a Reg CF or Reg A Plus, which allows to raise up to 75 million, we'll be speaking at the Reg A conference. It's Friday, June 30th. We've worked on some of the top campaigns there, or a Reg D campaign for that matter, which is accredited investor only, high net worth audiences only, and some lighter restrictions around those campaigns. We have worked with various types of VC funds for investor, limited partner LP acquisition. We've worked with fintech apps. But when we're working on Reg CF, which again, that's really where the highest volume is for an investor marketing agency, there are groups that can be early stage and have limited visual assets. So if we're able to put together advanced graphic imagery, going to talk about video, going to talk about some of the other design platforms that are out there to generate, it gives us whole new abilities in terms of what can be published on the offering page. As Jacob was mentioning, some of the content marketing that would go across social media, email, long form content executions, the advertisements themselves. If it's a pre-product company, pre-revenue company, or just an organization that does not have a huge library for us to pull from, this gives us more abilities as an agency and in-house. If you are an issuer running your own campaign, this can be utilized in that same type of fashion there. As you can see, it is pretty futuristic. You'd want to get the right style guide for your brand before you really start designing using one of these tools, and can even apply to an extent in terms of what it creates. Jacob, I know you're a big Adobe fan. Can you talk a bit about Adobe Sensei?
So I would say Adobe has been the first platform to adopt AI. Back in 2009, I remember coming across Content Aware when I was at work one day. And I had heard about it online and was like, I'm going to try this out. And I uploaded a image of a field with a bunch of like tall power lines in the background, and I pen tooled around one of the power lines. I hit Content Aware, and it disappeared with the background still intact. I was just like, wow, this is going to become like a much bigger universe where you can just generate whatever you want one day. I didn't expect it to come last year, but it's exactly as I sort of figured it would be. So we have a lot of basically expanding the content aware abilities of Adobe And I think Adobe may even want to bring prompting into its workflow, which would be interesting. The interesting thing about that is also Adobe, because it can generate layered images. We could generate layered, artificially intelligent created images. And as a designer, we'd still have the workflows that we're used to, and being able to manipulate those images and outside of just the prompting methodology. So it's exciting to see what Adobe will come up with, and they've already kind of unknowingly paved this road, so to speak.
It's great to point out all the ways the standard tools for design, for writing, for various types of creative development already have different types of automation integrated. AI really talks about the machine learning aspects of it, which we'll get into now. Just to start, when I first talk about usage of AI, I learned about it with advertising back in 2014. And programmatic advertising is machine learning. There's billions of ad impressions per day, and a marketplace of publishers, sites, apps, what have you, that run advertisements, offer advertising inventory, and then advertisers. There's all different types of sellers in between, and then you're bidding on behalf of the audience because you're looking to run the right ad to the right user at the right time. So I could tell you about 50 types of targeting offhand: age, gender, geo, mobile device, day and time of week. I could tell you all of these different filters because you're looking for pockets of performance. You're looking for specific algorithms that when you reach this user at this time and take them down that funnel with this messaging, you see performance. You cast somewhat of a wide net, and you look to find the performance versus assume who's going to perform, because there's often blinders. And AI at that time was optimizing off millions of lines of audience data. I can name 50 as a human, millions of lines. So I immediately had that sparkle when I looked at it, because I understood this is advanced approach. This is modern types of media buying formats. So the algorithm would learn, and the more advertising we bought, if we're getting millions of impressions, hundreds of thousands of clicks, the better the performance was. It got smarter. It learned. It was actually AI. And for years, there's been this threat of, hey, media buyers are going to disappear. There's not a need with this technology. Media buyers are needed more now than ever. We used to use some automated tools for Facebook. We used to use some automated tools for various platforms, and you still need a good captain behind the wheel, at the helm. And you need to run enough media for programmatic advertising to really work. There needs to be enough raw data to work off of and have some type of conclusion. So it's not great for every advertiser on a first campaign as much as, hey, social advertising is working, search advertising is working. Let's find more ways to reach these audiences. And saw some of the best cost per acquisition results to date by using these different formats. Wanted to point that out. That's just one way to be able to leverage it directly. TJ, when we're talking about planning and we're talking about reaching the right audiences, how can we utilize CB Insights?
So CB Insights is a really great platform. It kind of aggregates and organizes the data, generates these insights, does the market research reports, the visualizations, and it can really be essential for like business, investors, professionals. Really all across a lot of different industries, just to stay on top and informed about all these different industry developments that are just every single day they're coming in just with new wide range of services and tools. So it's really vital and it has really compressed that research element that comes into our business.
And I could tell you PitchBook is an excellent database. You get investor data, merger and acquisition data, being able to look at what's happening in a market. There is so much that can be pulled from here. So, just another tech platform that can be used in conjunction with different AIs. It can be used to really get an understanding of the marketplace. I see a lot of issuers want to skip steps in terms of research. Ask AI to do research for you. Use platforms like this. Success leaves clues. And you can see what's working on the top campaigns in the industry. We analyze King's Crowd every Monday morning as a team and look at the top 10 campaigns, look at the top 10% of campaigns, which are the ones that are really moving in Reg CF, bottom 50%. Not really much traction, and everything in between is really looking to get that next spike. So look at what's happening in the space is our big emphasis there. Jacob, are you a Crunchbase fan?
I have not used Crunchbase yet, no.
This is a platform for researching. So looking at startups, there is tool sets in here and plans to grow your revenue with all-in-one prospecting solutions, powered by the leader in private company data. So there is an AI-powered search functionality similar to PitchBook that allows you to filter and search for investors based on criteria such as investment history, funding preferences, and industry focus. Again, don't sell yourself short. Put the best foot out the door for your brands. Look at what other brands are doing. Look to source dossiers of specific investors using platforms like this. TJ, what about Deal Room?
As far as I know, Deal Room is, you can see like the growth trajectories and like the competitive landscape of a lot of companies and funding activities that these startups have across the board. It's really good for like the funding and investment insights that you can get. It gives a lot of information on the analysis on a lot of this venture capital funding, angel investments, and just a lot of different forms of startup financing, essentially.
Exactly. And block a half hour into your calendar, hop on a Deal Room, see what you could put together, get started with entry-level accounts on any of these platforms. You don't have to pay for all of them necessarily. There are other versions and other things like that for the ones that are paid if you're not ready to commit to it yet. But do everything you can towards success. Like I said, majority of these campaigns are not working, so you want to have those different approaches. I want to speak to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I think LinkedIn is an underrated tool for outreach. Advertising, I have other ad platforms I prefer. It's usually a third-tier ad platform for us, even with the audience data that's become available, even after the acquisitions they've had for other B2B audiences, B2B audience ad platforms. If anything, you want to look at a longer funnel for ads, but the content distribution channels that they have and the outreach tools are unmatched, underrated, amazing. So you can search by job title investor, even industry investor in your actual city or areas nearby. Proximity is power. You will get a higher response this way statistically for the exact individuals you're trying to reach. You could put together large lists on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I believe LinkedIn allows for 25 invitations per day to be sent out. I'm going to give you some recommendations on tools that you could use to automate this process as well too. But I always recommend doing it yourself first. You will be able to get a better sense of who's responding, how to craft messaging, and set this up for more success. We have whole webinars just on LinkedIn outreach and the way AI has been implemented into Sales Navigator puts out an even stronger product. So we've talked about tools now. We've talked about platforms. You know about them. Great. It's all about what you do with information, what you do with tools. Tools are available to everyone online. All the info, all the thoughts ever thought. It's all available online. It's all about how you use it. Used to give a Ferrari example of the top media buyer comparing to a professional driver versus an everyday driver hopping into a Ferrari, and just the way the vehicle opens up, the performance, I mean, just night and day difference based on, again, who's behind the wheel. So these are strategies to optimize, and really looking at investor relations, using AI, engagement, personalization, data-driven decision-making. Going to get into all of that here. Jacob, if you're putting together an initial set of ads, how can you use AI to monitor, analyze investor sentiment towards the company for the next set of ads or the next set of organic content that you're creating?
I mean, I would definitely use one of the software platforms that analyzes basically user behavior. And I would use that to inform my own personal decisions as a designer. I wouldn't have AI figure that part out for me, but maybe I would say, like with one of our other creative lead here used AI to create images of graphene, which is a material one of our clients sells that we seek investment for. And it was brilliant. It generated its own images of a very realistic material of graphene. He was able to use that on a bunch of ads. So as a tool to create like raw images, amazing for like a set of launch ads. And actually uncanny. We really are at the uncanny phase, uncanny valley, if you've heard that term, with static image AI image making. But not so much with motion graphics. I think it's important to have an aesthetic of reality when you're getting people's money involved, when you're getting investment involved, especially. And I don't believe whatever tools we might have to do AI generated motion graphics, they're not at the uncanny phase yet where I can't tell the real from the replicated. So, you know, just to have those things in mind. It has its place, but definitely someone, like you said, Jason, have to be stirring the pot, piloting the aircraft, so to speak.
Absolutely. And going back to the programmatic advertising, see a question in here as well. We were using platforms like AppNexus and the Trade Desk, still do, just at lower frequencies today because of the advertising pixel that the equity crowdfunding platforms, those portals and self-publishing allow for. There's some limitations. So the Meta Pixel, the Google Pixel, Outbrain, Taboola for native advertising. Also see some questions here. We'll be able to give contact info for Jacob, TJ afterwards, and we're all reachable on LinkedIn. They'll be recording of this usually a week afterwards. We'll be able to send things out over email. I am drinking a Liquid Death sparkling water. Not a tall can of beer. I'm just hammering through some of these questions here, but it is all about analysis and being able to find which audiences, which messaging, which creatives, which funnels are converting best. So being able to look at more options and find the winning scenario of each of those candidates can lead to night and day different performance. If you have 5 different A/B tests running and you're getting good performance on one of them, and you start reallocating more of the spend, more of the traffic, more of the outreach, organic content towards those sentiments, towards those segments, you're going to be in a better place. TJ, how can AI be used towards personalized communication?
I mean, in essence, for me, it really takes out that noise, right? That internet noise. You can go on the internet, look for something, and it'll give you so much information. That's kind of where like fake news comes from, right? But for me, that communication, it takes out all those other filters and really narrows it down for me. Creating that personalized communication, essentially, you can't take away the human empathy and that communication, that one-on-one, that building that rapport. Only a human to human can do that. But it does help with, funneling in all that information from the social media platforms, again, taking out the noise And a lot of times, I could just ask AI, like, hey, I need this specific source, instead of being on Google for hours on end, going through every single tab. And, you never get to page 2, let's be honest, on Google. But ChatGPT really takes away that legwork and gives you just very strong sources and helps to communicate the right information through to your investors.
Predictive analytics. Using AI-powered predictive analytics to identify patterns and predict investor behavior. They say to be an expert at something, you need to have had failed at it every way possible. We've certainly seen things work, and marketing approaches, tactics, processes not work. AI is designed to be able to do this in a quicker period of time. And that pattern recognition that a seasoned career expert would have can come quicker with AI, especially if you're giving it enough data. So back to advertising, millions of impressions, this can help out. If there's only a few pieces of content that you're trying to determine which one is performing better, you could run into some issues here. But a lot of things that can be built there. Jacob, maybe it's for site design. What are your thoughts towards chatbots and virtual assistants?
I generally try to bypass them. I usually
not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet. I mean, some people are for it. There's definitely like easy troubleshooting solutions that people could use these tools for. But generally, I think we all kind of want someone to help us, who's an actual person. People have experimented with it though. Like even though we were originally talking about several AI-driven investment consultant platforms, there was a guy right at the sort of media peak of ChatGPT when it was really breaking the records of the most software sold or whatever. There was a guy who forecasted a year of investment decisions using ChatGPT and is going to follow them verbatim. He has a Twitter account somewhere, I forget his name. But I mean, that goes into people kind of really experimenting with, the real sort of utility of AI to actually inform and consult you, and doing it to the extreme. So it'll be exciting to see, what these people braver than us are coming up with.
Just had a virtual assistant expert on my podcast. I think it'll be next week that the episode is released. If you're watching this on YouTube, probably already live, Barbara Turley. And it's really fascinating in terms of how small businesses use virtual assistants and fail. Same virtual assistant, another brand, maybe even in the same industry, better processes, other platforms that are being used to manage those processes, completely different outcome. And I mention this not just for advertising of the use of virtual assistants, but how you can look at AI assistants over time, how you can look at the actual results and ongoing management, the systems being adhered to on a daily basis as the determining factors towards success here. And I say that because I've seen so many brands fail with virtual assistants the same way I've seen brands fail with AI.
I think every business right now wants to optimize their spend on technical support and their customer service lines, but it's like the 90s called, and all they want is their customer service. Everybody just wants that relatability with another person. So I think it's just kind of also a position that we like to sort of feel comfortable in, when we're looking for that kind of specific assistance.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I can definitely second that. I mean, I think these days with any company in the field and industries, you just expect there to be an automated response. Like, it's a robot on the phone, but when I get that random company and it's like a live person asking me, how are you? What's your day like? And how can I help you? And instantly my mood has shifted from like, oh, representative to like, oh,
I seek out real interactions with real people as well too, even more so in person, and think we strive for it. If you are using AI for any of these use cases, you're going to want to make it as close to reality as possible. And I look at the high, I look at the low, good usage of virtual assistants. Sometimes you'll bring in a very high level consultant to build the processes that lower cost, more entry level team members can be fulfilling, 40 plus hours a week each. The same can be true with AI. It's all a matter of what you're putting in around it. Event monitoring and insights, monitoring events and market data using AI to provide real-time insights to investors. There are an excess of investor conferences, roadshows, pitch events, news articles, press releases. Start talking about micro cap and small cap businesses that are publicly traded, even more. AI can be a great way to utilize that. Even Google can be looked at as Google News, that type of vehicle. Jacob, what about data visualization?
Like infographics. That'll be interesting. I've actually never used AI for that purpose. But I mean, it's definitely possible. We already have, at least for my purposes, on a more primitive end, I have some templates that are graphs, essentially like 3-dimensional graphs, not like full on infographics, but just kind of the more basic parts that I can put data in and it will visualize it for me. I can even control the movement and the duration of time. Say, I want to look at used car sales between 1992 and 2023, and I can generate like that data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I can put that data in and have it generated visually and control, many of the visual aspects of that graph. It'll be really exciting to see how that culminates into something much bigger. There's been a lot of really fascinating movements towards infographics, especially in like the 20 teens. If you go on Pinterest, for example, you'll see some of the most creative ways to visualize information. But yeah, it'll be very fascinating to see how we could get AI involved into those processes.
Yeah. And we have an ad platform that's been built for us for reporting that shows more infographic type metrics. So not just the number, but a visualization of it. And it measures with numbers. Sometimes, especially for visual learners, that extra element can add so much more. And I could tell you, creating infographics for years, well over 14 years, the development can get backed up in a creative studio or any type of organization. Want to move forward past these last pages and get into processes. So just firing through these last bullets: investor behavior analysis, analyze investor behavior patterns using AI to tailor investor communications and campaigns. We have assumptions going into the campaigns. We need data to tell us what's working, what is not. You could set up a whole path in any analytic platform to see where investors are jumping off and not converting in the funnel. You could see the investors that are converting, who is transacting at the highest value, and being able to optimize, be able to do more of what's working accordingly. And AI can certainly help with that. So polishing your AOI powered prompts and formulas, I think, is what separates good usage from someone who is wowed by the fact that they could say, hey, type a marketing plan for this business into ChatGPT and see all of this work. That is a shortcut that I would find to produce a lower quality outcome, where, if you're putting more of a executive summary into a marketing plan and looking at pieces filled in, if you're putting more of an executive summary of marketing plan in to get creative built, you're going to have a stronger outcome. TJ, what are some ways to streamline the ChatGPT workflow?
Sure. I mean, what's really great about the main platform is that you can have these tabs for each client. And as you're working on each tab on the side of ChatGPT, it remembers the tone, the style. And as you keep funneling new information, of course, I have so many different clients across the board. Each client has their own brand voice. Each client has their own tone that they want to, stick to. That was their brand, their original branding. And so ChatGPT really does a good job at remembering that style. Of course, at the same time, I still have to go in there, work it almost like a word puzzle, making sure that, okay, just because this is the information that I was given, whether it be market stats or industry stats and whatever it may be for that certain client, I still have to go in there and remember the rapport and the information and the connection I built with my client to go back into that information and that input and the output and make sure that it's as curated as possible.
And all about being specific, the more specific and detailed with your prompt, as I mentioned with that executive summary. These are the competitors. This is the audience. These are the channels. Here is the format. It has to be within 40 characters, 1 line, 2 lines. Do not just go with an answer that an AI gives you and think that it's strong, as much as looking at it from the shoes of your target audience based on the marketing planning you've already done to see how relevant it is. So have an example here. How can I attract investors through targeted email marketing campaigns? And going into more detail. Also just providing context. So giving context is crucial for obtaining accurate responses. Have more examples here so that you can see the actual use case. What about using natural language, TJ? I know, again, sometimes this marketing copy comes off as very generic, very dull. How do you get natural language out of an AI?
Simply, there are so many different ways. Like, you could say like, write an essay about a cat, and then you could turn it into write an engaging essay about a cat that is investor focused to make people want to buy cats. I mean, it really comes down to how you funnel the output that you're putting in to get that language back. And of course, AI still will have its robotic style, and that's where you come in and you add your own
Yes.
language, your own connection. But it really does help with giving you examples of different ways that you can relay your message.
Yeah, it's funny because it's actually sort of opposite with AI art platforms. Like in the beginning of Midjourney, everybody was doing full on, sentences as the prompt. It'd be like, imagine Ramses II illustrated in the style of Mobius and Jodorowsky's Dune. Now you wouldn't say that. What you would say is you'd outline the subject and then you would add the adjectives following that subject. And it's very cold. And actually those, for at least Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, those are the best methodologies. It's not really using a full sentence in the prompt anymore.
Do you feel like that's because it's just getting smarter, or is it just taking out that fluff?
It sort of feel like it was a hack that people who are really into prompting learned. And actually then it probably more so informed the methods of how people prompt from then on, because then the machine was able to learn quicker through that type of format instead of a full sentence.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Test optimized scale. Said it once, I'll say it. I can't say it enough. We'll test out for Facebook advertising some open targeting filters at times, similar to what we do with programmatic real-time bidding, so that we can let the data tell us what's working, so we can let the machine do its thing and see where we get the best response. So asking follow-up questions, I would say never just put it in once, go through multiple times. And here's why I really want to, be able to hone in on processes. So prompt, reprompt, compare, really be able to go multiple layers deep here. Jacob, you were talking about some of the prompts you use for design. TJ, if you want to add for ChatGPT, what are the best ways to prompt and start to review?
Me personally, the more information you have, the more connection you have with the client and the brand, the better. The more you know, the better information you can get back. And that just really comes down to understanding who your client is. There's just a lot of technical words. A lot of times these startups are actually even just startup ideas. These ideas never existed before. IoT is a very, data compaction. These are new ideas that like I'm learning about. And so the more I'm learning about them, the more keywords that I'm giving ChatGPT on my end, the better the results are going to come back for me. How about you, Jacob?
Review and also compositing. I still, for my purposes, I would mostly, I've composited a lot of my own images. I have images that look like they're made in Midjourney, but they're like probably 700-800 layers in Photoshop. But it's pretty cool to you just be like, I want a background. Then I cut parts of that background out, and then I can expand on that. And then I want a particular element from this image I generated in Midjourney, but I just want that one thing. So it's also just seeing what else you can construct with it. Another thing to bring into, especially with what we do with marketing, we have these banner ads, we have these ads on these two-dimensional screens. That's comparatively like silent movies compared to what could be in the future. So we could utilize AI to generate these components of things that could be used in much more complex, almost like immersive experience types of marketing. And essentially then the designer is really back to square one in terms of our workload. We're just moving a bigger brush and painting on a bigger canvas.
Oh, I like that analogy. That was really nice. I agree.
Well said. Well said. And I really do look at these tools for the editing purposes right now, for inspiration, for different variants, so we're not just tied to our perspective. So being able to talk about the review and pulling out anything that could really be tangible, and understanding that it's not all going to be. And in many cases, humans can still put out better creative. Going back to the writer's strike or different types of graphic design, even uses in Web3 and NFTs. There's been all of these different findings, especially within our own agency, that we can put out better work with the team, and in many cases, no AI, but we're looking for ways to put out the best marketing physically possible by teaming up with AI. So I've seen this review step missed so many times. I consult on different brands, working with accelerators and volunteering coaching for startups who reach out to me as a whole after speaking at events. So I can't tell you how many times that piece has been missed, or just doesn't have the right lens. It's CFO looking at it as an example, a CEO who's done limited marketing and looking to find initial traction in the brand. So we then reprompt after we get this, provide a revised prompt, addressing the issues, the gaps, and being able to have a stronger result from there than comparing. Again, we're seeking out what's physically best. Not looking for credit, not looking for ego, not looking to have AI produce everything for us. We're not to that point. Maybe a few years down the line, maybe it happens sooner with the learning. We can look towards AI to do high volumes of content, high volumes of creative for us, but it is not there. Having TJ on the writing, having Jacob, having other team members, Brendan, Deja, we've seen our team on these webinars, still puts out a better response, but we want to be able to have these comparables. So assessing whether the revised response aligns better with requirements, provides relevant, valuable information for investor marketing purposes, always seeking out new A/B tests. When a campaign's not working, we look to come to the table with new variants, audience, messaging, funnel, messaging, I should say, creative and visual. When a campaign is working, it needs to scale. We need to bring more audience, creative, and funnels to test out. So it really supports like that. What do you guys think about this page?
Well, it's like we were talking about before. It's a plane that you still have to fly. You can have autopilot cover only so many aspects, but you still need a pilot behind, in the cockpit.
And again, how one group utilizes to the next makes all the difference. So limited access to current events and topics. ChatGPT's training data only goes up to mid-2020, which means it may lack access to the latest information. We do have a paid version. We have later versions that give us more data. But as a marketer who focuses on investors, it's essential to bridge the gaps and ensure your content remains relevant, engaging to your audience. That is what it's all about. Do not believe references that ChatGPT makes. I was making those law firm analogies earlier, and there were made-up cases that ChatGPT was finding online. So there is the potential for misinformation and biased perspectives. If you want to elaborate on that some more, TJ. Oh, you may have frozen there.
Something that's great can also have, negative consequences. It's a matter of using it for the right advantage, as the right tool, as a tool to help people, a tool to promote businesses. And, of course, with anything that's great, there's also going to be some scammers, and it's really wary to be on the lookout for those types of situations. And with all technology, and there's always going to be another side. There's always going to be people who are going to take advantage of these situations.
Jacob, what are some challenges with emotional nuance that we're seeing?
It's really about being informed. Like anything else, even with lit news, it's always about just staying on top.
I think TJ, you cut out a bit, or
yeah, I apologize. I think my internet's coming up, but
okay.
Technology. Is there an AI for Zoom?
Yeah, there's a lot of subtleties that are really hard to capture, and also physicalities. One of the things we've still had a struggle with AI portraiture is hands. Oddly enough, if you ever had a life drawing class, the one thing they'll tell you, the hardest thing to draw are hands. And so we actually share this challenge with the machines, which is very interesting. There's definitely slants, and there's definitely even certain figures that have reemerged in several prompts. People were saying Kate Bush was sort of like a figure that had sort of emerged in a lot of people's prompts, or someone that looked like her. So it's interesting to see where there are focuses that the machine learns that become sort of unified and also sort of biased on the machine's part. And definitely something that we have to take into consideration. There's also been a lot of talk about sort of the racism of AI, and how AI actually does have a racial bias that is, in favor of certain people. And that's something that is definitely paramount, that needs to be unlearned, decoded, and worked through.
Mm-hmm. And this webinar is all about staying ahead of the curve and identifying usages for your organization that could be of value for AI, as well as limitations. And that's really why we put today's discussion together. It is not that we are pro AI as much as pro tech and futurists in many senses of the word. So we want to be ahead of the curve. We are an agency. We find having marketers as part of your team to be more impactful, more successful. We're running some of the top campaigns in the industry right now. Top campaign of this week, top Red Day Plus of all time, working with various groups that are very notable on top of some new up and comers that are really moving right now. We see things work, we see things not work. Our focus is on those analytics and how to get them, how to manage them to a point of effectiveness, to a point of scalability, to be able to say, if you do this over the next week, the next month, you're going to be in path to hit 1.235 million or 2 million or 5 million, or maybe it's a Reg A plus and going after the full $75 million cap. We get these metrics and we're able to do that. We're able to use our own pattern recognition towards it. But we find that we need to be up to date on the latest tools. We test them out. We wanted to put this out here today for educational purposes. If you do not have marketing budget and you think AI is going to be a breeze, please do as much research as you can. Use prompts similar to what we've published here today. Definitely take into account the processes to prompt, repolish, rinse, repeat again and again and again, not just accepting what's been put out there. Use consultants. If you reach out to us and share different messaging, we're not really digging to figure out the origination of it versus looking to be of value. We look at it as a responsibility based on the volume of investor marketing campaigns we've worked on, more than any other agency that we are aware of. So we make it a pledge of ours to be at the forefront of technology. Going to be speaking on panels at conferences about this later this year. I look at it to be a growing topic. Some of it may be a fad. There may be more holes, and certainly articles talking about the horrors of AI. It is not a fantasy type tool as much as something that can be very powerful towards success or powerful towards failure, misinformation. So that is our finding. Those are our findings. That is what we're looking to really spread here today. Jacob, TJ, any closing messaging before we hop here?
Really, again, staying ahead of the curve, just learning it. We are in an ever evolving world, and it's just going to get more and more progress. And we need to just stay in touch, stay in tune, stay on top of all the knowledge that is given to us to make sure that we're utilizing these tools the right way.
And, I would just like to add kind of into what I was talking about earlier, there's a lot of anxiety about people thinking this is going to take their job, just going to do that. But as the brush grows, so does the canvas, so does the medium. We're going to be making, I'm probably going to be an immersive experiences designer someday. And those will actually be what our ads are looking at, what people are experiencing, what they're actually looking at in terms of just flat panels on the screen. So this is just, it blows up the picture and sort of magnifies the possibilities.
Yeah. I mean, if everyone used AI and no one used a copywriter, everyone's copy would sound the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's graphics would look the same.
Exactly. We need that sort of element of humanism, that element of free will that goes against the predictability that only a machine can,
empathy,
understand.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We will have a recording available on our YouTube channel, which I am publishing here. You'll likely receive an email about this as well. In the deck, and if you reach out to us, we'll send you a copy of the deck. You can then, dive into any of the sites. They're all very easy to find just by typing the brand name in to Google. But we are here for any questions. Do not be bashful. Please feel free to reach out. So it's a pleasure being able to share what we're seeing in the field. And don't forget to test, optimize, and scale. Take care. We'll see everybody next time.